Candidate Master, which is, I guess, right below FM. Or National Master and Candidate Master are kind of similar, I guess. Okay, plays E4. We're going to go C5. D4, going for the Smith Mora. We'll take it. So, what do I want to show you guys is the question. Personally, I don't like accepting the gambit because white usually gets pretty good play from it, and it's sometimes difficult to defend against. Not that I'm afraid or anything like that, but but I'm going to accept it. I'm going to accept it. Let's see if Shamatis knows what he's doing here. Knight C6. Don't talk strategy. He's in here listening. He's ghosting. Yep. E6. The old ghosting tactic. Or the stream sniping, whatever you want to call it. It's Cannabis Master. That's a high rating if you get what I'm saying. That was a terrible joke. I'm sorry. That was a terrible joke. Alright, B5 to hit the bishop. Give him the wrong strategies. Alright, castling was bad. Don't do that. I'm just kidding. Alright, knight e7. I'm going to play knight g6, bishop e7. I'll explain the setup. I'll explain the setup after the game. He's doing the correct setup, though. He's doing good so far. Pretty much this opening as white kind of plays itself. You like playing the queen c7, knight f6 trap line? Yeah, that's definitely possible as well. Let's see here. I always tend to forget what to do against this, honestly. I think knight a5 is the move here. And then bishop e7. Like I said, I usually don't take the pawn, honestly. I mean, I know how to play taking the pawn, but I personally don't like taking it because there are quite a lot of annoying things to watch out for. I appreciate the joke. Punny jokes are the best. I appreciate punny jokes as well. That was a pretty bad one, though. That was a pretty rough one. Alright, I think we just castle. Yeah, I don't see why not. I think I'm going to play bishop b7 next move or something like that. Alright, thanks for laughing, guys. I wasn't sure if anybody was going to laugh at that one. Alright, knight c4 to poke this bishop on c4 and the pawn on b2. Just my opinion, do I think players below 1400 should even bother with gambit lines? I think playing logical, solid chess is the best thing to do, especially at that level. However, there is the times you will catch the unsuspecting opponent in a gambit line that you do know better than them. But I feel like it's not going to be enough times for the other times that they take the pawn and you don't get what you wanted out of it, and they're just up a pawn. Actually, if I was going to say anything, gambit lines should be for players. Gambit lines, they're an interesting breed for sure. Do I take the bishop or the pawn is the question here. I could just take the pawn, but it might get trapped is the downside. I think I'm just going to take the... I think I'm just going to take the pawn. Yeah, I'd say better is just solid chess openings rather than the blitz or the sacrifice stuff. Unless you know, unless it's a... There are different kind of gambits in chess. There's the kinds that are very risky. Obviously, something like e4, e5, knight f3, f5, like the Latvian or something like that. Very risky. King's Gambit at this point, very risky. Not good openings, I'd say. Oh, okay. So I guess we're just winning the bishop here. But there are other gambit openings that are reasonable, are logical, that can be played. It is what I'd say. It depends, though. Okay, he's threatening h5, but I think I'm just going to play Rook c8, probably? Or queen c7? Let's just go queen c7, I think. Alright. I'm sorry, let's go. I'm switching around everything. If he plays h5, I'm playing b4. He'll take, I'll take back. And then I'll win the knight, is the idea. That's the idea, at least. Marshall Gambit's the best gambit? Yeah, so like the Marshall Gambit and the Roy Lopez is a legitimate gambit opening. Something like the Queen's Gambit, obviously, legitimate gambit opening. Something like the, King's Gambit. Not really legitimate anymore, in my opinion. This might look weird. I think I'm just going to take with the rook. If he takes the pawn, I'll just move the king over. And then I'm trying to get the e4 pawn as the next move. Take h7, just move over. Dutch defense to avoid the Queen's Gambit. Yeah, so Queen's Gambit, legitimate, like I said. Other openings, maybe not as much. He should play Queen b1. He needs to hold on to the e4 pawn. That's my, if he moves the queen, I'm going to grab this pawn is the idea. The Evans Gambit, I know that Kasparov has played that with success in the past. I don't think it is something to rely on. I guess is a way I'd say it. All right, we're taking here. If he moves this bishop, we just grab the knight. All right, this is a free piece, I believe. Bishop takes, queen takes. I could play queen a8 as well. That might be even better. Yeah, we're going to do that, actually. I'm low on time. I need to also kind of force a checkmate or force something out of him. Bishop h1 or bishop f3 are ideas. I think we're just going to play bishop h1. It's kind of a cheese threat, queen g2 threat. He needs to play f4. And then playing rook takes g3. Okay, I guess that holds for the moment. We're checking. We're probably retreating. Threaten the rook. Bishop f3 next move. Okay. So I'm pretty much in a winning position here. His king is so weak, and I'm up a pawn, and I'll pick this one up. I'll analyze this one here. Why couldn't his queen take that bishop on g5? I could have, but he would have picked up my bishop on e4. I'll look at it just a moment right here. Okay. So in this gambit line, the Smith-Morra gambit, personally, I usually play knight f6, which does transfer into the Alapin. Right? You could get this opening by e4, c5, c3. Pretty much the same type of thing. That's what I usually play. But for the sake of you guys viewing, I'll show how to capture and do it. There are quite a lot of kind of specific moves Black has to make in these kind of situations in order to not get blown apart. If anybody knows, I'm sure if you guys are on chess.com, you guys know who Mark Esserman is. He's very famous for this opening. Very famous. He beat Loic Venueli, which is a 2700 rated GM. He beat him in like 15 moves in this opening. 15 or 20 moves. He just crushed him because he knows all the ins and outs of all the tactics and all that stuff. If you're Black and you don't know the ins and outs and White does know the ins and outs, this is definitely an opening where White can blow you off the board if you're not careful. However, I kind of know how to circumvent that stuff and end up with a better position. I win a pawn. He really should... back at this point, he needs to play... He needs to play this earlier, probably. Anyways, though, after all this, win a pawn, trade, take the knight, he takes here. If I take here, there's nothing wrong with it, but my king is a little bit more susceptible to this kind of diagonal. Not that I'm going to get checkmated, but it introduces some inherent counterplay that White has that I don't really need to give to him. So I just move over. This pawn's always there to be captured later. Grab that pawn, knight g5, take. I could have taken on g5. He takes on e4 because notice how this bishop was blocking the way there. I could have done that, but I'm probably still winning. But he has this threat, he has this threat, he has this threat. He's also guarding his pawn. So this is probably not even a... It's better for me, but it's not terrible for white anymore. You know, something like this, and he's starting to get a couple pawns. I'm still winning, but it's definitely not clear. So I decide to keep the bishop, and he's got a very weak king side. All these light squares around his king are very weak. So threaten checkmate, he moves. Check here, bishop f3. If he takes this, I just take back. Or if he takes this way, I'm up the exchange. Once he moves the queen, I mean, I have multiple ways of winning. I can probably just check here. I can trade. He ends up losing on time, though, in a pretty not so great position for him anyways. Okay, am I saying the name wrong?